hosted by Tony Gapperstone. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hey, it's showtime, everybody. It's 326, the episode of the Brave Maker podcast. My name is Tony Gapperstone, and I'm a writer, director, producer based in the San Francisco Bay Area. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm in my Brave Maker studio today, and I get to talk to some award-winning now filmmakers of a recent film that just premiered at our local Cinequest, the Cinequest Film Festival in the Bay Area. And I have producer as well as writer, director, editor, Paul and Lars here. Thanks for joining, you guys. Congratulations on your new film, The Disappearance of Dolores Wulff, as well as the win that was just bestowed upon you within the past few days. Congratulations.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's introduce yourself to our audience here. Lars, producer, why don't you start? Lars is in his car. Paul, I heard you were at a meeting, so thank you for squeezing this in. We'll start with you, Lars. Go ahead and say hello.
Hi, my name is Lars Slind, and I'm one of the producers and the production manager of The Vanishing of Dolores Wulff.
Awesome. Paul.
Hey, what's up? My name is Paul Sadowski, and I'm the director of The Vanishing of Dolores Wulff.
All right, this is a true crime documentary. I got to watch it, and I have so many thoughts and questions around this. It's also a Bay Area story, which is interesting. A story that is over 40 years in the making, of the loss of a mother and a sister and a wife, and how the story reconciles. I don't know how much you want to say here, spoilers, but Paul, why don't you talk a little bit about the film and the making of it?
Yeah, I guess we don't want to give away the ending, but other than that, we can certainly say that this was a 41-year-old cold case. Dolores disappeared in 1979. Her family had no clue what happened to her. All her belongings were left behind: her ID, her wedding ring, her car, literally everything. Her body was gone, and all her personal possessions were still there. So it truly was a mystery what happened to her, which is why the movie's called The Vanishing of Dolores Wulff, because the family and the authorities were just baffled for decades. And back then, if you didn't have a body, there was no murder. So there was a prime suspect. Both the authorities and the family thought that a particular family member might have done it. And they spent decades, literally decades, trying to prove and find out answers and trying to prove whether this person had done it or not. And at the same time, dealing with the emotional and moral dilemma of believing that a loved one may have killed your mother. And simultaneously, Dolores had 4 children. So they dealt with that while trying to search for answers. And simultaneously, their extended family went on a campaign of, mayhem and vigilantism to try to shake some answers out of this person, out of this suspect. They got very, very creative with some of the stuff that they were doing in order to get to the truth. So the film chronicles all of those things, including the 41-year-long investigation, which ultimately culminates in 2020. She disappeared in 1979, and in 2020, a cold case file landed on Detective Kenny Hart's desk, and through modern technology and resourcefulness and stick-to-itiveness, he ended up solving it.
Yeah, it's very cool to watch that all unfold. And as a person in the Bay Area, this film, I'm going to toss out a couple cities. Benicia, some of you will recognize Benicia, and Woodland, the Carquinez. Is it the Carquinez? What is it? The Carquinez what? Something, the
Carquinez Strait.
Yeah, straight. Yeah. So kind of wild I watched it with my teenage daughter, who's very much into crime stories. And we were like, oh my gosh, we drive over this bridge, all that kind of stuff. Lars, as the producer, talk a little bit about producing such an epic documentary film that took place over such a long time.
Yeah, it's a very unique story. So I played football for Coach Paul Wulff, who's the youngest son of Dolores at Eastern Washington University. And when I played for him, I never knew the story. He never mentioned it to anyone. So when the story broke that the case had been solved in 2020, I had other teammates reach out to me and tell me, did you know about this? Did you ever hear about it? And obviously none of us knew. So I reached out to Coach Wulff and we had a long conversation about this. And I told him that, I thought this was a really, really important story. And that I think if it is told the right way with care and respect, it could be very impactful. And, to protect the family, they didn't want this to be a Hollywoodized story. So because of our relationship, he trusted me. And I immediately reached out to Paul because Paul has, he has a record of a success in this area. He's got some other projects that have been on platforms. And we immediately started to game plan, started to interview people. And like an onion, once we started to unravel this thing, I mean, it got so much bigger than we could expect. And what we did in our 90 minutes, we condensed a lot of things, but there is a huge, huge story here. And when you watch our film, you will get the gist of that story. But I mean, there's all sorts of little caveats. So that was the biggest thing, I guess, with producing this is finding the right people to come on board and help make this a reality. And Paul was the very first person I reached out to. So literally I got off the phone with Coach Wulff and then I called Paul Sadowski.
Cool. So you're talking a little bit here about the craft and the team about making a film, and we'll get back into the story. But while we're here, our audience loves learning about how to make films and some of the things that go into the behind the scenes of that. Let's talk about the putting together the team, how you got to get consent forms. You're filming all these interviews. Talk about just some of the real specifics about making a documentary. And we're seeing documentaries over the past couple of decades really start to pop. They were at one point just people talking heads, but you have a lot of recreations. You have a lot of these actors that are recreating the story from the past, which I think is really interesting. So talk a little bit about that, Paul.
Yeah, so it was actually a pretty interesting story because this project, we took it out with an agent, and we had partnered with a production company, and it was right in like 23, which is when everybody I'm sure all your listeners know that the entertainment industry at large at that point just sort of hit a brick wall. So it really didn't go anywhere. It just sort of sat there for a year and a half, and when we got the story back, instantly, Lars and I started talking about, how can we make this happen? Because we knew we had a great story there. And just because somebody, didn't commission it, that didn't mean that this story shouldn't be told. So I had at that point, I had just began sort of working and doing fun stuff, not really knowing it was going to go anywhere, with our third partner, Alex Alonso. So Alex is someone I met on a show I ran called Gold Lies and Videotape. He was one of the main people on that show. And he has this crazy backstory where in the 90s, he and a group of other people went and were searching for this treasure on Victoria Peak, which happens to be located on a military base, the White Sands Missile Range. So Alex and I became buddies from that show. And, we really this show came out in 23, and since then we've sort of been, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? We're constantly kicking ideas around. So I came to him and I said, listen, what do you think about making this particular story? And Alex is a filmmaker as well. He was one of the main talents on Gold Lies and Videotape, but he's a filmmaker as well. He has a small studio. So really partnering with him enabled us to do what we did. And we decided, okay, we have a very solid outline, very solid game plan. We've done a ton of pre-interviews with the key people because, we had a sizzle and stuff like that. So for the sizzle, we did, 8-9 hours of interviews with the various key people in the show. And then next thing you know, we devised a game plan, asking ourselves, it was really sort of a test of ourselves also, because one of the main questions we asked ourselves is like, can we do this on a small budget, which means we have to do it quick. This can't be like in production for a year and a half because we're just going to run out of money. And our main thing was like, okay, we feel very good about, knowing the story, having a solid ending and being able to put it together. Can we do it in 6 months? That was our goal, right? From rolling cameras to lock cut in 6 months. And lo and behold, and Lars can talk about some of the other, details you were asking about. Well, we managed to do that. We managed to basically have a finished film that everybody was happy with within that 6 month period. So it sort of proved, to us, there was a few things that we wanted to prove, which is, can we make a movie in like 1/3 of the time that it takes to package it, partner up with someone, get some meetings? You know what I mean? Like that whole endless process that sort of is the Hollywood pipeline. Can we make a movie and have a finished product of a high caliber within a 1/3 of that general time frame, which is usually about a year and a half is how long it takes. So especially in the last few years when things have just sort of stagnated and slowed down. So that was our main goal, our main objective. The story was always obviously the most important thing. But yeah, Lars, you want to talk about some of the other sort of things that Tony was asking about as far as the process?
Yeah. So a major thing, as you had mentioned, Tony, was making sure we got releases, and so that was a huge process as far as, because the family was very large. So we needed to get releases from all the family members and then all the locations. And we were very fortunate because the Benicia Police Department really, they helped us with everything, and they didn't create any kind of a roadblock for us. And so that was really, really smooth. Because Coach Wulff was the head football coach at Cal Poly, that helped facilitate getting releases to be able to shoot at the stadium and the college. So those were some of the things as far as an indie filmmaker that can be huge hurdles, not being able to hear back from people. And there were some things that we just never heard back from, and we had to kind of pivot from that because, like Paul said, we had 6 months and we couldn't afford to have any kind of a misstep or hiccup that really pushed production further down the road.
I want to talk about those specifics. If you're just joining in on Instagram or YouTube, I'm talking with the team behind the Cinequest award-winning Best Documentary Film here, 2026, The Disappearance of Dolores Wulff, a story.
Vanishing.
Oh, sorry. Vanishing. Does your website say something about why I have disappearance on my mind? My bad. The Vanishing of Dolores Wulff. She did disappear, but it's the vanishing of Dolores Wulff, the award-winning new film that just premiered at Cinequest Film Festival, and it's showing today on March 19th. If you're in the Bay Area, it's at the Mountain View Alamo Draft House, I believe. Is that right? Alamo Draft House?
Yes, at 12:30 p.m.
12:30 p.m. today. So if you're watching this on Instagram Live or on YouTube, go check it out. But Lars and Paul, director, editor, producer of this film, The Vanishing of Dolores Wulff, can you talk to me a little bit practically about when I hear 6 months and going out to an agency and presenting and the packaging and all that kind of stuff and working on a budget? I want to hear what you can share specifically about what people could expect when making a feature film when it comes to the financial end of things, because industry wise, we all need to make money. This is a craft and an art, but it's also a business. So whatever you can share about that for the filmmakers out there who are wanting to make a feature length documentary, what can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the main thing and probably the most rewarding things from that angle for me was that teaming up with Alex and Lars, we really had three multifaceted filmmakers and with complementary skill sets. I directed and edited the movie. Lars was not just a producer and a UPM. He also was an actor and played several parts in the recreations. And Alex isn't just a phenomenal producer with a lot of resources like cameras and a studio. He's also a fantastic cinematographer. He's the one who shot this film and made it look as beautiful as it is. And he also scored the movie as well. He's a composer. So we all were able to do it in-house. So even though we did it, on an indie, we had a real budget, but a very small budget. I think it's, we were sort of, in a sense, we had almost an embarrassment of riches just because of the resources that we had access to that I think a lot of films and a lot of filmmakers probably don't have, which is what enabled us to pull it off. Even with the you're seeing the recreations you're seeing on the screen sometimes, it just so happened that Lars's wife Alexa resembled Dolores quite a bit.
Wow.
So we, the way we shot stuff, we don't show faces. It's all very impressionistic. It's all very sort of, like that shot right there, you're seeing of Slick walking away. That's pretty much as close as you'll ever get to seeing a face, but it's still out of focus. He's backlit. You can't really tell who he is, right? And most of the time, we're not even showing faces. We're just like maybe cutting the frame here, and you're seeing the action. You're feeling the dramatic things happening on the screen, but the actors themselves, the performers, are not taking you out of the moment where it becomes about them. That was our goal, right? But it just so happens that Alexa looked like Dolores, and we put a wig on her, and we didn't have to go search for an actor that would convincingly look like her the way we shot her. You know what I mean? So a lot of the stuff just sort of lined up in such a perfect way that I'm not sure it's ever going to happen in our careers again, where it's going to be, I don't want to say called easy, but so fortuitous that all these things just sort of lined up the way that they did. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's very, to me, the most important thing. And for me, every project you do, you learn something new, right? If you're not learning something new, you're not growing. You're supposed to be evolving the whole time. And what I learned on this one is that when you have the right teammates who really make your life easier, and hopefully we made each other's life easier and complemented each other's skill set, you can really put something special together without sort of jumping through a lot of the hurdles that some projects are infamous for. I know projects that are being worked on for 2-3 years, and sort of that's the process. So like I said, our goal was very specific as far as the time frame goes, but and it was a test for ourselves, but it was really it felt really great to be able to pull it all off with these guys who brought so much to the table. Everyone wore multiple hats, and there was very few times, other than like normal things that happen on any production, there wasn't like any BS. You know what I mean? We were just so all committed to getting this done and getting it done at a high level that it was like a singular focus. The whole team was playing the same sport, and it was great. It was great to sort of have that, in a small but cohesive unit of filmmakers.
What I hear you saying too, if you're just joining in, The Vanishing of Dolores Wulff is the award-winning documentary film just presented at Cinequest Film Festival here in 2026. I hear you talking about this multi-hyphenate life that a lot of creatives have needed to embrace, because sometimes we can't just do one thing. It would be nice if I could just act, or I could just produce, or I could just direct. But the reality is, if you want to get anything done in this independent market right now, you've got to be willing to act, write, direct, produce, sometimes do craft services, do coffee runs. Sounds like that's a lot what was happening here with this film. So congratulations on the work. Can we talk about the story a little bit? Because it's a grueling story. And I'm going to let you talk about whatever the grueling elements you can share without spoiling things. But it's a murder, disappearance, loss, a family falling apart, things that you don't expect. I was watching it as somebody who grew up in the 70s and 80s going, man, things were so different back there. Man, people could get away with stuff, and people still get away with stuff today, but it's just very different. So talk about some of the elements. If someone goes and watch this film, or just in general in the story, they can look it up on the internet. It's a public story. Dolores Wulff. What can you tell us?
Just to go up first, it definitely is a story, like I said earlier, that has a lot of layers. And, Paul and I decided early, once we were interviewing people and getting information from people, that it was kind of a story that had been piecemealed over time. So you'd have a section here, an article there, and we'd interview people, and they would know some of the details, but not all of them. And so we were able to take a step back and take everything that had been done over the years and condense it into one project where we could see it in front of us. And that really, really helped us. But that really was a huge undertaking for the story, which is just being able to see how the story had evolved and information had grown or kind of disappeared over time, and getting all those old documents, those old police reports, the coroner's report, everything like that, really, being able to see what the officers saw, what the investigators saw, the information that they had, being able to see what the clear motives were for certain things in the film. That really helped us be able to craft this story. And get a better cohesive understanding.
Yeah, and we became basically, we're obviously like a little bit like investigative journalists in this thing, because like Lars was saying, we did like our initial Zoom interviews with most of the people. We ended up interviewing a few extra people, some new characters, for the film. But when we first packaged it and to pitch it, we did these Zoom interviews, and even in those, it was freaking amazing what we were learning. We were learning stuff, and through our own research, not just through talking to people, but reading, where these, you would expect everyone to know everything. After 41 years, they've been living with it, but that wasn't the case. They didn't know, certain family members didn't know that the extended family members did X, Y, and Z crazy stunt to try to, get this guy. And it sort of became a fascinating little experience for us, because you're talking to these people and you're filling them on details of their own life, of this crazy story that, you hope doesn't happen to anyone ever, losing your mom and not knowing what happened to her for 41 years and suspecting that potentially someone you love killed her. And they're like learning from us. And then when we shot the film and we interviewed even more people, it was the same sort of experience where, we had this investigative wealth of knowledge that, and you see it in the movie a few times where, they are in the moment reacting to a piece of information that they didn't know. And it's either they think it's hilarious that these people did this, that their cousins did, this crazy stunt to try to trick this guy and have him, lead him to the body. So, you're right in the sense that it is a grueling and tragic story, but it also has a layer of, for lack of a better word, there's a bit of like a Tiger King element to it, where these people are taking matters into their own hands. They're getting highly creative with some illegal, antics that they've come up with. And now when we interviewed them, which was at that point, like 45 years now, because we interviewed them last year after she disappeared, their perspective is different. They're able, they already had the closure because the case has been solved by then. It got solved in 2021, 2020. So for them to retell it, it wasn't like they were still, even like 4 or 5 years earlier, where, we would have asked the same questions and they didn't have the answers. Now they had at least some of the answers. So I think it never, the gravity never was lost, as far as like, it's your mom and she's gone, and that layer is never gone. However, there was a little bit of more, I guess, emotional freedom, you could call it, where they could sort of look at some of these things, some of these crazy things that their family did, and enjoy it a little bit, knowing that they sort of have a little bit of closure, which they didn't have for all these years.
Yeah, and that feels good to tell a story like that and to capture their emotions and those faces when they get some of this news that you break with them. Really, really, really cool. Yeah, so cool. Congratulations on making a feature film. Congratulations on winning the friggin' festival. That's a really big deal. The best documentary at Cinequest was your premiere as well. So congratulations. What is next for the film? What's going to happen? What's the hope?
Well, right now we have our second screening today at 12:30. So anyone in the Mountain View, Silicon Valley area, come on down and see it for yourselves. And we're going to try to sell it. We're waiting on some answers from some other film festivals to potentially screen there as well. And hopefully we get to do that. We obviously want to reach as wide of an audience as possible. I think everyone who's seen it, even at the first screening, some of the people that came out, I mean, they're just highly moved by this movie, and which is sort of what we were hoping for, because it is a multi-layered story. It's got a lot of heart, a lot of emotion to it. It is a murder mystery, but it's also got several other layers that I think some true crime stories don't have. And obviously we want to find a home for it on a streamer or an outlet somewhere where it's going to reach as many people as possible. We think it's a movie that people are going to enjoy, that people are get something out of watching it. And we, like all filmmakers, we want to find the right home for it.
Right on. Well, you can find more information about The Vanishing of Dolores Wulff on their Instagram at The Vanishing of Dolores. And also, I'll close out by saying just I loved your promotional presence as filmmakers at a film festival. Everybody who ever has a film at a film festival, you have to cut through a lot of noise to be seen, to get attention, to get press. And you all had T-shirts made. If you're watching on our YouTube channel or Instagram, you'll see, they were walking around the festival with, you just couldn't avoid being confronted with Dolores. And I think that was a really, really cool marketing piece that you all did. We have to be creative. We have to be our own publicists sometimes. But I'll end there. Do you want to share anything about just getting a film into a film festival and anything you've learned after your first week of premiere?
From my end, yeah, there was some things that I definitely learned. I mean, it was a huge learning curve. Again, this, being in India, you're wearing a lot of hats. So in the beginning, we got your information from the film festival, document where it lists all the media outlets, but just following up with people, communicating with them, getting media out there, thinking about, again, like you said, how are we going to get people to connect with this film before they see it, and what is going to drive interest to the film and drive interest to people to wanting to come and see the film. And we felt a big thing would be to just have the poster because it has Dolores's face, and we want that to be the first thing that you see. We want Dolores to be the very first image that you have when you look at this, so right away, like, this is the woman, this is this is what this is about. Because again, at the end of the day, this is a story and a legacy of her and her family, and that's really what we wanted to do. Is we wanted to make sure that the family was respected and that they were happy with this story. And exactly what Paul said too, at the premiere, I mean, there was a lot of tears, and a lot of people came up to us and they were just kind of puzzled, and they were struck, and they said, we didn't expect it to hit us like that. And we did a lot of interviews afterwards because people were very interested, and that's what we want. We want her to make an impression, and we want people to remember her, because back then, like Paul said, no body, no crime, and it just kind of it kind of vanished for a little while. And now, even though Dolores vanished, we're making her presence felt. And I think that's important for the family. It's important for us, and especially for me, because I have a connection with Coach Wulff, and his response to this film meant more to me than anything. And the fact that afterwards he embraced me and he was happy and he was grateful. I mean, that's the win for me in my heart, because he was more than a coach. He was a mentor. He was somebody we looked up to. He was stable and he held his composure while this was happening, and he was being my coach. And that demands a lot of respect.
Well, congratulations. You guys have a great screening today. The Vanishing of Dolores Wulff. Find it on the internet. Go to see it at Cinequest today on March 19th, and wherever it ends up in the future. Winning a festival's best of is a good sign and a good trajectory, and I hope you get a lot of people asking and reaching out, and some good things, good doors open for you. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you. Paul, thanks, Lars, for being a part of the Brave Maker podcast. Yeah, we'll see you soon. Everybody else,
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you so much for watching wherever you did, on Instagram and or YouTube. If you are a fan of film and you love to support these independent movies, this is what we're about. We are helping tell brave stories through our classes, through our podcasts, through our annual film festival in July. And we do it with your support. If you are a generous person, any capacity, meaning if you could give $5, $25, $100, this helps us continue to do this work. This podcast is not sponsored. There's no ads. You can listen and watch and engage for free with no commercials. And we do it because we can. If you should so desire to see this continue, to see our work continue beyond our 8th year, which we are in, go to bravemaker.com/donate to become a partner today. Or you can just use your phone right now and go to the text app, pull it up, and text the word Brave Maker. It's one word to 44321. Now, one last commercial that I'm going to give you before we end. We talked about being a multi-hyphenate. If you are someone who wants to make movies, maybe right now you're a writer, or you say, I'm just an actor. It's time to build and grow beyond just being one thing. We are doing, for the first ever time, the Creative Multi-Hyphenate Summit. It is happening all day on Saturday, April 11th in Redwood City. It is amazing. We have people from Proximity Media. That's Ryan Coogler's company. D'Lo Lewis, who's an executive on the new reboot show of X-Files. We've got Sachin Bhatt, who's an actor, producer, writer, who was on Boots. We've got Stephen Canals, who is the creator and writer on Fox. We want you to be a part of this. Come out, check it out, bravemaker.com/events for more information. One day jam-packed with pitches and screenings and workshops and panels and all sorts of cool things. This is April 11th, Saturday, up in the Bay Area. We've got discounted hotel tickets. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be cool. I will be there, and I'd love to see you. All right, thanks so much, everybody. I'd like to remind you, our motto, brave stories change the world, and you are the story. Go out there and be that today. See you soon.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Appreciate it. Are you still there?
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah. You got it. You got it. Have a great screening today, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Hey, I just want to say thanks for having us. You have a great, stage presence, so it was good times.
Thanks so much. All right, talk to you later, Paul.
All right.
See you,
See you
Lars.
soon.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, bye.